Right now, you can know almost anything. You can pull out your phone and read what happened 1,000 years ago. You can see the face of a king who died long before you were born. His name, his wars, his last words, all written down, all saved. But here is something strange. For almost all of the time humans have existed, nothing was written down at all. No names, no dates, no stories saved on any page. Just people, living and dying in a world that forgot them the moment they were gone. This is the story of what humans did before history began, the long, dark, silent time that almost no one talks about. Think about how old history really is. The first writing is about 5,000 years old. That feels like forever. Kings, pyramids, whole empires. All of it fits inside those 5,000 years. But humans, real humans, just like you, we have been here for about 300,000 years. Let that sink in. If all of human history were a single day, then everything we have ever written down, every book, every war, every name we remember, would fit into the last few minutes before midnight. All the rest of the day would be dark, silent, empty of records. That is where most humans who ever lived spent their whole lives, in the part we can never read. So what were they doing all that time? They were learning how to be human, the hard way, with no one to teach them. Somewhere in that long dark, a person picked up fire for the first time and did not run from it. They learned to feed it, to carry it, to sit close to it on a cold night and feel safe. No one wrote down their name, but every warm room you have ever sat in began with them. Others learned to break a stone into a sharp edge, a simple tool, but with it they could cut and dig and hunt and build. Hand by hand, year by year, they got a little better, a little smarter, and they passed it on. Somewhere in that silence, humans began to talk, not just sounds, real words, a word for danger, a word for water, a word for come with me. And once we could share what was in our heads, everything changed. A lesson learned by one person could now be given to everyone. Knowledge stopped dying with the body that held it. With words and fire and tools, they began to walk. They walked out of Africa and across the whole world, over mountains, across deserts, along frozen coasts. They had no maps. They did not know what was on the other side. They walked anyway. Every place people live today, someone reached it first, on foot, with no idea where they were going. But these were not just survivors. They were people, with feelings, just like yours. Deep inside dark caves, they pressed their hands to the wall and blew paint around them. Thousands of years later, we can still see those handprints. A quiet voice saying, "I was here." They made music. They carved tiny figures. They wore beads. And when someone they loved died, they did not just leave them behind. They dug graves. They laid the body down with care. Sometimes they placed flowers or tools or beads beside it. Gifts for a journey they believed in but could never prove. That is the moment we became fully human. Not when we made a sharp rock, but when we stood over a grave, felt the weight of losing someone, and chose to honor them. None of this was easy. There were no doctors, no safe homes, winters that felt like they would never end, sickness with no cure. At one point, scientists think our whole kind almost ended. The number of humans alive may have dropped so low that every single person today comes from that small, frightened group of survivors. We almost did not make it, but they held on. Through cold and hunger and fear, they held on. For you, without ever knowing you would exist. And here is the part that is hard to think about. Billions of people lived and died in that long dark before history. Billions. More than are alive in the whole world today. They loved, they laughed, they were afraid, they held their children, they looked up at the same moon you will see tonight, and not one of them left a name. We will never know who they were. We cannot read a single word they said. The whole story of their lives is gone, like a fire that burned out long ago. They are the silent foundation under everything, the forgotten people who made us possible. So the next time you read about history, about kings and dates and famous names, remember this. History is only the last thin page of a very long book. The rest of the book is dark. We cannot read it, but it is where almost everything that matters was figured out. Fire, words, family, love, the courage to keep going when there was no reason to believe things would ever get better. That was done by people with no names, in a world with no records, a long, long time before history began. You are the part of their story that finally gets to be remembered. Try to be worth it.